Grw Sell and Retire is the podcast for the lazy overachiever. BD Dalton, author of True Gravity and Grw Sell and Retire, is here to give you his 25 years of secrets, tips, and systems to take your business to the next level. This is your chance to find out what is working in sales, marketing, and running your business. If you stop learning, you stop earning. Now, here's your host, BD, with today's GSR podcast.
Hey everybody, BD Dalton here, and I'm bringing you my interview with David Schnurman of the Fastforward Mindset. This is an amazing interview talking about ways that you can basically fight your fears and go out and do things that are amazing for you, your clients, and your family. So sit back, grab a pen, grab some coffee, and let's take some notes about how to make you appear in a fast-forward mindset. Great author with me on the show today, David Schnurman, live from Barcelona. So things are changing down there. You wrote a book in May, and you've actually made it so that you're following and actually essentially eating your own cooking. So start walking us through where the book came from, how you came up with the concept, and then we'll kind of walk through some things that the listeners can do. So welcome to the program, David.
Thanks for having me, BD. I love living in Barcelona. It's something that I've been thinking about doing for 5 or 6 years with my wife and 3 kids, but was never able to pull the trigger. And so one of the things that the book was about for me and for everybody else is the story that you have in your mind of the things that you want to do in your life, actually trying to get out of your comfort zone and doing them and making it happen versus just constantly thinking about it. And it's geared towards business or life or travel. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was move to Barcelona, and I wrote the book to help me do it.
Cool. And so how'd you come up with the title? And then how can people kind of start, since you did it, how can people do the little steps? Moving to Barcelona or moving from New York to Barcelona is a huge step. So how do you walk people through the small steps, and how did you come up with the title?
So Fast Forward Mindset, the title came from 2 different ways. So Fast Forward Mindset does not mean going 1,000,000 miles an hour at all. And fast forwarding can mean going from something that would take 20 years to take 10 years. So essentially, fast forward, it's about how to get to where you want to be faster, whatever that means. And for me, there were several things every single day that I wanted to do and or have an impact on that I wasn't doing. And so originally the fast forward, it was the abbreviation. 20 years ago when you had the remote control, had FFWD,
yes,
and FF or fast forward. Yep. So those 2 Fs actually stand for the 2 most important parts to fast forwarding your impact, and that's to be more fearless and to be more focused. And when I started to look on why I wasn't getting the results that I wanted in different areas, and then I started looking through research and the top selling business books, it all came down, there's 20 different things, but it all came down to lack of confidence in myself on a day-to-day basis, and lack of focus to actually see things through once I started them.
That's cool. Yeah, because on the Grw Sell Retire stuff, it's energy, time, and focus. So focus is just, it's essential, and people don't have enough of it in today's world and let everything bog them down. So you're still running Lawline. You on a daily basis, correct? So you're still training people and paying the bills that way?
Yeah. So Lawline, we've been around for 12 years now, and it's the largest provider of online continuing legal education in the United States. I used to say just the largest provider. And just assume, obviously, it's the United States. But now that I'm an international, I got to be very clear on where we're talking about. And so we've built up a really great team. So the book is a lot of the book is about my company, and specifically about a lot of the challenges that I faced over the years. And one of the main challenges is leadership. And as you know, one of the biggest things in life is learning how to be a better leader and to managing people and to helping them grow. And so one of the things that I'm proud of, and it's always a work in progress, is the team that we have at Lawline and the structures that we've built. And one of the reasons we've built a better structure is we've hired coaches over the years to work with us and build a foundation. And because of that, because of an executive team and clear focus that we have as a company, it allowed me to move 40,000 miles away and still be involved in the day-to-day. Not in the day-to-day, actually, because my role is more to focus on the future, but still be involved in the company as we grow forward in the role that fits well for me.
Cool. So you're able to take your focus. So when you say now you're looking towards the future, so you've built a company, now you've got management in place, or the day-to-day management in place. Was it hard to, so did you have to crack the fear of not being there on a day-to-day basis with your finger on the pulse every day?
So last year, I was, I've been a part of Entrepreneurs Organization. Are you familiar? Have you ever heard of EO?
I've seen it. I've done some background research, but just run the listeners through it really quick.
So Entrepreneurs Organization is the largest provider of, I'm so used to saying.
Yes, the largest provider of everything. It's like largest provider of law services.
The biggest, the best. Okay.
No, it's cool.
So Entrepreneurs Organization is an amazing organization. There's 13,000 members worldwide.
Yes.
And in order to qualify, you need to have a minimum of $1 million in revenue. But the more important factor is it's a peer-to-peer organization, meaning as an entrepreneur, you're there to learn from other entrepreneurs, not to try to get business from them.
Yes.
And so, so I joined it 11 years ago, and I met it through a TV show that I started. I started interviewing those entrepreneurs. I didn't even have a business. And when I joined it, I said, someday I want to be the president of this chapter, the New York chapter where I lived.
Yes.
And 8-9 years later, after learning the ropes, being on the board for several years, by the way, one of the things I kept saying no to was being president.
Yes.
Because I had fear to do that. When I wrote the book, guess what I had to say yes to next time I was asked to be president. So
that's
because
cool.
of the book, I knew I wanted to do it. I just didn't think I could, devote the time I needed. And the reason being, and actually to answer your question, it took about half of my time, give or take.
Yes.
They say more or less in Spain, más o menos.
Más o menos, sí.
Más o menos, sí. And the company grew more than it's ever grown, in 6 years. So that was a good sign that I can move away and focus on the right things in the business and still grow as a business and have lots of good things going on. So I figured, well, if that worked, let's see what happens when I move 4,000 miles away and see if we can continue that streak.
That's awesome. And I think that really becomes a good point. And I think the thing, if I go right back to the beginning of what you were talking about, is that people think, they talk about a journey, is that you put the book in place to kick you down the road to X, to walking away from New York and setting up in Spain. Is that people, the process that we go through, they don't, when you throw that thing out there, moving to Spain or whatever else it is, you make the little steps. If you don't throw that out there, then people don't make that focus. And I think that separation makes it all come together. So how did you get your wife and 3 kids to say, yeah, come on, Dad, let's move over?
So 5 years ago, my wife and I, do you know who Pat Lencioni is?
No, I've never, no.
You might know one of the books he's written. It's like, I think it's the 5 Functions of a Team.
Okay.
And so he's a famous business author. He also wrote a book called 3 Questions for the Frantic Family.
Yes.
So it's essentially how to take all the, we focus 95% of our energies in building a mission and vision for your company, but you don't spend it on your family. So we have 3 kids and we were, had a lot of drama at home. So we figured, okay, what's important to us as a family? And when we wrote our vision and mission for our family, one of it was a family that travels often. And we weren't doing it at the time because we had 3 young kids. And so as my twins, I have twins who were 10 years old, or 10 years old now. They went from elementary school to middle school. So you actually have to switch schools anyway.
Yes.
We decided while we were applying to other schools in Brooklyn, why not apply to a school in Barcelona too and see what happens? And they got in. And they were actually super excited about doing it. And so which surprised me, to be honest. And then we kept going through the process, applying for a visa and finding a place and all this. And every time we were doing it, we were sort of kind of faking it, like, oh, are we really doing this? Then eventually, I think we told, when we told everybody we knew, we felt like, well, if we don't go at this point, then we're kind of like posers. So we sort of had to fake it until we made it. And then we were here.
Fake it till you make it. Great. great analogy and great story, because people do that not enough, I don't think. So you got that to happen. So you did you got your family on board. And how did you get your team on board? Your work team, so your work family. How did you get them to say, that sounds like a great idea, David?
So one of the things that's kind of cool in our business is over the years, 11 years ago, everybody came to the office and worked from the office. Like there was no option to do anything else. Then about 4 or 5 years, maybe 4 years ago, maybe a little longer, we started having work from home Wednesdays. So every Wednesday, we have about 30 people in the office that people would work from home every Wednesday and would just sort of like work from that. And then all of a sudden, those became work from home Fridays, and like that, then it became other days. And then we had people who live in New Jersey, like 2 hours away, and just became easier for them to, work remotely or telecommute. And because of technology, as we're doing this through Zoom right now, which didn't exist 5 years ago, and Slack and other areas, it really makes it super easy to actually not have to be in the office. And so the first person I had to truly get buy-in was my COO, and talk to her about it. But the one other thing about our company is we all love to travel. So we all share like somebody. We've gone to Asia, we've gone to Europe, we've gone to South America, and everybody shares their trips. Everybody's like really excited, to hear about other people's trips. So I think, with one of our core values and personal missions is personal freedom. Yes. And so just building on that, I think it just energized the company to, obviously people miss having me in person, and it's, it was a little scary probably, but also excited for me because they know it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And it's only for, a short period of time.
Yeah. So what is the time frame?
So originally, we set a year, and that's our focus. And we'll as we get closer to the end of the school year, we'll relook at that. But right now, it's a year.
So I just for your information, in 2002, I was here for 5 years in the UK, and it's now 2019. So
I've heard that story many a times from many people who live here. So there are 1 year going on 17.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's good. And I think that's one thing that when you talk about personal freedom, I think that the US, we get that a lot when it comes to the ability to have personal freedom, but work freedom doesn't exist as much when you get to the higher ranks for a lot of people.
Yes, but I think society is changing.
Yes.
I think that the same way the education system needs to change and still way behind, the old traditional concept of what work is not necessarily having to be in an office because of how things have changed in technology, and also it's potentially you can hire more of the right people if you're not just confined to people who are located in this one regional area. So the challenge is, how do you grow the right culture over time when people are distributed? Instead of saying remote workforce, a distributed workforce is a better way of doing it. And that's certainly something that we're exploring, and we actually need to figure out in the next 2.5 years because our office lease expires.
That's right, and those little catalysts make it all come together. So, one or two takeaways from the book that somebody could apply after they listen to the Grw Sell and Retire podcast today, and they've listened to David. So, what's two things that they could apply to their life today or their business today to make it so that they feel like they're in the fast forward mindset?
Sure.
Besides buying the book, obviously.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that one of the things that I'm super proud of in the book is I have some really clear concepts that you can take away and apply like the minute you stop reading or during reading, as well as stories that keep you interested throughout. So I'll share 2 examples of that right now. One is a story that I heard about 8 years ago. And the day that I heard that story, it changed my life and it allowed me to experience more and take more action. And it's a story about a farmer from 2,000 years ago in China. I don't know if you've heard this story.
Nope.
And I'll say it really quick just to get, so it's a live example. A farmer bought a horse from his neighbor.
Yep.
2 days later, the horse escaped. And the neighbor comes running over and goes, "I'm so sorry your horse escaped. That's terrible." The farmer looks at him and says, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" A couple days later, though, the horse comes back and it brings back 4 wild horses. The neighbor sees this. He comes running over and goes, "Oh my God, you're the richest guy in town. You now have 5 horses total." The farmer looks at him and says, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" 2 days later, the farmer's son is riding on one of the wild horses, and he breaks his arm and his leg. The neighbor sees this. He comes running over and goes, "I'm so sorry. That is terrible." The farmer again looks at him and says, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" And then finally, there's a war that breaks out, and all young men are conscripted to fight in the army. And the neighbor's son had to go fight in the army. And he comes over crying to the neighbor and to the farmer. He says, "You're so lucky your son doesn't have to fight in the war because he's injured." And of course, the farmer says, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" And this story obviously goes on forever. And the moral of the story is a situation is not bad, or an outcome is not bad until you label it bad. And the reason that was so, and I share in the book from how my business started, starting from college to now, all the things that could have been labeled bad at that moment that actually, looking back, were some of the best things that ever happened to me that actually led me to talking to you right now on this podcast. And the reason it's part of taking action, if you never label an outcome bad, you'll be able to do more things because you're not afraid of if I do this podcast with you and I sound stupid or it doesn't come out the right way, it's like, good thing, bad thing, who knows? If I start a business and it doesn't work out, if I move to Barcelona and it's a terrible experience or whatever that is, good thing, bad thing, who knows? And you just constantly say that, and it allows you to be more fearless and take more action. So that's one story that I share in the book.
Cool. Very good. And then the second one.
The second one, and by the way, all these things are concepts that I've learned from other authors. And the second one is from this book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. Have you ever heard of that book?
Yes.
Okay, great. So principle number, I think it's 43 or 46, is keep your agreements. And one of the things that Jack shares in this book is a story when he was teaching in a class. And in the class, he had everybody sign an agreement that they wouldn't be late. And obviously, a couple days later, some people were late. And he said, "Well, you broke your agreement." One of the guys says, "Well, it's not my fault. I can't control traffic." And Jack goes, "Well, what if I told you if you came in late, I would kill your son?" And the guy goes, "Whoa. If that was the case, then I would just never leave. I would just sleep here overnight because I wouldn't want to take the chance." And while the example itself is extreme, it's designed to let you know that you actually have more control over keeping your commitments than you realized. And at the time that I read that passage, I remember there was 3 things in my life that I kept feeling like I was breaking my commitments. One, I would cancel meetings like 10 minutes before all the time, especially with people at my work. And in my head, I'd be like, well, they would think I'm super busy and I'm a big CEO, then they'd be okay with it, versus they're the most important things to me. I'll do it. I'm there for them. I would tell my wife I'd clean the dishes, and of course I'd fall asleep and never do it. And again, I would say, well, she loves me, she'll be okay with it, versus I love her and I'll do it. And the biggest thing was I was out of shape because I had 2 twins and I wasn't working out. And so I used this concept to keep my agreements, to keep my commitment, to see if I can run my first marathon. And I never ran more than 3 miles. And so I signed up for a marathon within a month of reading that book. And I used that, keeping my commitments, to get through so many walls that were in front of me. And I finished my first marathon 4 months later.
Awesome. That is really good. And that was a question that came up yesterday. I was doing a big presentation and somebody said, okay, well, the hardest thing to do is build trust. And you got to build trust with those, whether it's yourself or somebody else, with little steps. I'll send you an email in 15 minutes. You send an email in 15 minutes, or 14, not 16. So it's completely agree. And that everybody, trust is built up over time, whether it's with yourself, but it's broken instantly. So it's
one of the biggest things that I did was, and I'm not perfect at it, but keep my commitments to meeting times.
Yes.
Even I mess up. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I used to be like, I'm sure you are too. Like half the times when you do podcasts and you like you booked with me, I'm sure there was a moment you're like, oh man, I'm super busy right now. I can't believe I'm doing this podcast with this guy, Dave, who, I don't really know, but I'm super interested, but I wish I could do it at a different time. Maybe you thought it, maybe you didn't, but you are here and you showed up, and obviously you're getting tremendous value. So there you go.
That's cool. No, it's those little bits are there. So here's the fun questions. Okay, so what are you reading right now, either for fun or for business, or a little bit of both? What do you have on your bookshelf?
Yeah, so there's a book that I'm about to start reading. Someone just told me that I'm super pumped to read, and it's called. This might not be the exact title. It's called Moonwalking with Einstein.
Okay.
And one of the things that's cool about it, it's about how your brain works and how people can memorize, and how Einstein, did his things. And it's supposed to be super, super great book to read. So that's what's next for me. And
cool.
The other thing is books. I'll say what my favorite book was, because the books that I'm focusing on now, believe it or not, is learning Spanish. So I don't think that applies to so many people. So the most one of the most impactful books for me was The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard of that book, and mainly because I wasn't a morning person before I read that, and it gave clear action steps I can use to wake up an hour earlier, and it's transformed my life, because that is the time I use to focus on myself.
That's beautiful. And not enough people in today's world focus on themselves. And if you're not there, then you can't change other people's lives. So.
Especially with kids. I don't know if you have kids.
Yeah. I've got kids I've got an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old. So
so you're right in it with me. There you go.
Yes. And still getting them to speak Spanish, because we speak Spanish in the house.
Perfecto.
Probably about half the time now, because of school and having to go through their regular homework. But
so smart.
Lived in Spain for a year, so I spoke to Max for the first 3 years only in Spanish.
Oh, awesome.
But then Talia came along, Max was great. It just, everything gets in the way. But
exactly.
Life gets in the way. But how are the kids enjoying it?
They're really enjoying it.
Awesome.
They're in an international school, so both me and them are getting exposure to people and cultures that we've never had this type of exposure to before. So
it's the beauty. The beauty of being in Europe is the U.S. is very eclectic, but I think Europe is eclectic and a bit more.
Yeah, it's not all about the U.S. here. That's for sure.
And right now, with all the political unrest, it's quite interesting. And then, how about technology? What's a bit of technology? You mentioned Slack. We mentioned Zoom. What's a bit of technology that's making your life a bit more fun or a bit more productive?
Productive, Trello.
Okay.
We use Trello boards. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yep.
So what's so cool about Trello is I've been using it in work, and then my son came home and he's using it for his class. So I'm like, well, that's a good sign that the students are using it as much as we're using it. And then I would say from a fun perspective, it's just the basics, like using iMovie and some podcaster tools so I can put it out there. And I've been, again, this is not really technology, but blogging. I've been blogging every single day about my experience here and putting on the Fastforward Mindset blog. And it's been really fun because a lot of people are reaching out to me and appreciating sort of not only my sharing the ups here, I'm also sharing the challenges that we face. So I don't want, you go on Instagram or Facebook, whatever, and you look at all the videos and you think, everybody's having the best life ever. And I just want to show, there's some hardships to moving 4,000 miles away from where you are. And if I had to say to my kids, I'm still amazed by TikTok and how big that platform is and the kind of stuff that's on there. So, and it's fun. So I have to admit it.
Yeah, no, it's fun. Everybody likes to have a little bit of laughter, and it's good. It's good and very interesting. Many videos and many movies. Of silly stuff. But then, okay, so how do people find you? How do people come across any more stuff from you?
Sure. So you can go, search my name on LinkedIn, David Schnurman. Obviously, you can email me at david@lawline.com. And then my book and my videos and the blog is on fastforwardmindset.com. So you just can type the whole thing in. It goes there. It's also ffwdmindset.com. And that will probably be a good start if somebody wants to reach out to me.
Perfect. Okay, and here's the capper here. So you've given two really cool points previously with the horse story and keeping your agreements. If somebody's listening to the last minute of the show and they say, hey, I want to go back and listen to the very beginning of this, what is one top tip that they can take away right now?
Yeah, so when people get out of their comfort zone, and whether it's starting a business, leaving a job, moving to a different country, name a million different things. One of the first things that happens to them is they say, oh my God, why did I just do this? Like, what am I doing? I have no clue what's going on. Then they feel generally so alone. And so just the tip I have an acronym in the book. It's called NIP, for nip fear in the bud. But the first step of that is just to remember, whatever your experience in, let's say it's entrepreneurship or whatever, you're not alone in that feeling. And most importantly, the reason you're feeling that is because you chose to get out of your comfort zone in one form or another. So to actually embrace it and be energized by it, because if you weren't feeling that, you'd be in the zone. So it's knowing when you get that uncomfortable feeling, that feeling of fear, just constantly reminding yourself that you're in the shoes of other successful people and you're not alone. And in the book, I give 4 different strategies on how to do that. And they're super easy to do and a lot of fun.
Very cool. David Schnurman, the Fast Forward Mindset from Barcelona. So thank you very much for coming on the Grw Sell and Retire podcast today.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on Grw, Sell, and Retire. For more information, tools, or to book one of our team members to work with your team, business, or to speak at your event or conference, visit bartdaltonconsulting.com or email contact@bartdaltonconsulting.com. Buy the book True Gravity on Amazon. If you want to work for the rest of your life, that is your business. If you don't, that is ours.